When Nancy Pelosi is sworn in as Speaker of the House on Thursday, she becomes not just the third most powerful United States politician, but also the leader of the Trump opposition. Both loved and loathed, her comeback story is an extraordinary tale of political survival. After 8 years in the political wilderness, Nancy Pelosi is back on top. In 2007, the California Democrat made history as the first female Speaker of the United States House of Representatives. But it was short-lived. This time, she's at the helm of a resurgent party with responsibility for initiating new laws through the lower chamber of Congress, not to mention guiding a slew of new investigations into the president. And she's done so despite being written off multiple times, and labeled a pedestrian public speaker, prone to the occasional gaffe, having high disapproval ratings and becoming a lightning rod for Republicans. Tying her name to embattled Democratic candidates had been an effective weapon for conservatives in the past, but in the 2018 midterm elections, it lost its punch. In Virginia, for example, Republican incumbent David Brat mentioned Nancy Pelosi and her liberal agenda 21 times in an hour and a half at a debate. His Democratic opponent, Abigail Spanberger, finally shot back. I question again whether Congressman Brat knows which Democrat in fact has running against. My name is Abigail Spanberger. She went on to win the district, one of 40 Democrats who captured Republican-held seats, giving the Democrats their largest surge in the House since the 1970s Watergate scandal. Now, with her return to the Speaker's chair, Ms. Pelosi again becomes the most powerful woman in United States politics. It caps a remarkable journey for someone who grew up the youngest child in a family steeped in East Coast, big city politics, made a political name for herself in the most liberal corners of California and has dominated Democratic politics for nearly a decade and a half. People have gone wrong by underestimating her for years, says journalist Elaine Povich, who wrote a 2008 biography about Ms. Pelosi. Never bet against her. She's consistently the hardest worker, the best organized and great vote counter. These skills are going to be sorely tested in the days ahead, as the incoming Speaker will have to balance the competing priorities of her Democratic caucus, while facing incoming flames from the political Vesuvius that is Donald Trump. The public had a taste of such confrontations in December, when the two argued in the Oval Office about border wall funding. She emerged from that duel with Democrats, singing her praises, but for many on the left such fireworks should only be the beginning. They will be clamoring for aggressive oversight of the president, while others want a legislative record that Democrats can run on. It's a recipe for intra-party conflict, and indicates the treacherous path ahead for her to navigate. Although Republicans have typically painted Ms. Pelosi as a San Francisco liberal, enamored with big government, and far to the left on social issues, her roots are from a more practical style of politics. On the other side of the continent, she grew up in a political family, one of 7 children in the great East Coast city of Baltimore, Maryland, where her father Thomas, Big Tommy, D. Alice and Regina, was mayor. She was the youngest and the only girl. To be a politician in mid-century Baltimore meant succeeding at old-school Democratic machine politics, keeping track of favors received and favors given, knowing whom to help and whom to hurt, and how to do both. Ms. Pelosi managed her family's political accounts, including answering the 8 phone lines that connected to the House. She went to college in nearby Washington, where she met and eventually married financier Paul Pelosi. They first moved to Manhattan, and then San Francisco, where Ms. Pelosi started as a housewife. She had 5 children, 4 daughters, and a son in the space of 6 years. In 1976 she became involved in politics, using her old family connections to help then California Governor Jerry Brown, running for president, win the Maryland primary. She then rose through the state's Democratic Party ranks, eventually becoming its chair. In 1988, at the urging of the outgoing Democrat, she ran for a seat in Congress, and won. In the House, she worked her way up again. Because she represented a portion of the city with a large gay community, she made increasing AIDS research funding a priority. She fought a multi-year, bureaucratic battle to have a shutdown military base in San Francisco turned into a national park. In 2001, she ran against Maryland's Steny Hoyer, whom she once interned with. Back in Washington for House Minority Whip, vote counter and second in command of the caucus, and won a narrow victory. The next year she moved up to Minority Leader, after Dick Gephardt of Missouri resigned. She was one of the highest profile, most outspoken opponents of the United States invasion of Iraq in 2003, and in 2005 successfully helped block President George W. Bush's call for partial privatization of the government-run Social Security retirement program. When the Democrats won the majority in 2006 for the first time in 12 years, her legislative acumen had been established and her stand on the, well, at least in the minds of Democrats, was vindicated. She became the clear choice for Speaker of the House, and was elected by her party in a unanimous vote. In January 2007, the Californian made history as the first female Speaker of the United States House of Representatives. But 4 years later, Democrats lost control of the lower chamber of Congress. Despite the setback, Ms. Pelosi kept her head above the turbulent political waters, riding out a series of electoral defeats, and beating back challenges within her own ranks. To take the gavel once more, Speaker of the House is the one congressional job detailed in the United States Constitution. It is second in line for the presidency, behind only the vice president. Although such an ascent would require an unlikely set of circumstances in which both offices were vacated, its massive office in the Capitol Rotunda reflects the prestige of the job, with its own balcony looking out toward the Washington Monument. Unlike the Senate, the majority party in the House, led by the Speaker, has virtually unfettered control over the legislative process. The Speaker and her deputies and committee chairs determine what bills are considered and voted on. They set the agenda and decide the rules governing debate. If the Speaker can keep her majority in line, and Republicans over the last 2 years shows that it's far from a certainty the legislative process in the House can prove like a well-tuned machine. That was the case the last time Ms. Pelosi was Speaker, from 2009 to 2011, when Democrats had unified control of Congress and the White House. Her chamber enacted an $840 billion stimulus package in the aftermath of the 2008 economic collapse. She passed pro-union and cap-and-trade climate legislation, which never made it past the Senate and into law, and financial reform, and a bill prohibiting gender discrimination in pay, which did. She also pushed hard to get the Affordable Care Act, which became the defining battle of the Barack Obama presidency, through the House and onto the president's desk. Donna Edwards, a member of the House from Maryland, describes Ms. Pelosi's performance during the 2009 healthcare battles. In those negotiations, I watched Pelosi, the tactician. She wrote in a Washington Post opinion article. She held scores of meetings, back to back, day into night. She juggled phone calls, House and Senate leaders, cabinet secretaries, the president, all to get us to yes. She paid the most attention to vulnerable members. Pelosi knew they would pay the highest price for doing the right thing, and they did.